Alright, so I'm going to show how to open up and replace this screen on the iPhone 8 Plus, okay? So I think I already did a video of this, but I'm going to do another one anyways. So first what you need a Pentalobe 0.8 screwdriver bit. I think this is a Tri-Wing 0.5, and then this is a Cross 1.3, but you can probably use a 000 PH or J000. Okay, so first take the Pentalobe point, what was it? Sorry, 0.8. Okay, and then remove that screw. Okay, there's two screws on the bottom, so you want to remove both of those. Be very careful when putting the screws back. I've had some people that put it in the speaker grill, so let me show you here. So those two screws are towards the center. I've had some people that they accidentally shoved it in the speaker or the microphone, and then it's almost impossible to get that out. You can use like a magnet. This little tool I have has a magnet on it as well. I'll probably post a link to this in the description below if I can find it on Amazon again. But then I use like a thin tool like this. You can also use like a suction cup, but I just use this thin tool. But anyways, you get between the screen. So some people will use two suction cups, but that doesn't work well if the glass is really badly shattered. That's why I use a tool like this. Usually people will heat this, but the adhesive is pretty soft, so you can easily just cut through it. So I just run the tool along the bottom and then along the sides like this. Okay, just like that. And then you kind of like twist it a little bit to pry it up a tiny bit. Be careful because there are cables that go along the side here towards where the home button is on this side. Okay, so you just want to barely pry it up on that side. Okay, because you're gonna have to be careful when you pull this up. Okay, so do that, twist it a little bit. The other thing is at the top here, there are clips that hook underneath, so it's gonna be a little tricky to remove, but let me show you. So once you get both sides pried up, kind of have to wiggle this a little bit, wiggle and twist it a little bit. All right, you can peel off the adhesive if you want. So your phone won't be water resistant after this, even if you replace the adhesive, so keep that in mind. Okay, so here you can see there's the cable there, or hopefully you can see it. Yep, there you go. Okay, so to remove this, you kind of have to pull the screen down a little. There is adhesive up here as well, so you kind of have to cut that adhesive as well. Okay, once you cut all that adhesive, you can kind of pull it down more. Right, you want to take this slow, because if you do a sudden like yank of the screen, you can damage the cables and stuff underneath. All right, then it opens like a book like this. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is remove the battery connector. So to do that, you need to switch to the cross or the PH or the J size screwdriver. So just take these screws out. You want to keep all the screws in order because they are different sizes, different lengths, so you don't want to mix them up. If you put the wrong screw in the wrong hole, then you can actually risk damaging the phone permanently and it might not work anymore. Okay, so take all these screws out. There's 4 screws. I always just close the screen after because the cable's here. If you let it flop over, it can rip out the cable, so you want to be careful with that. Okay. All right, so we got the 3 screws on this side and then the 1 screw down here, so there's 4. Okay, and I'll show you after I take out all the screws how I lay them out on my desk, just so you can get an idea how I keep track of it. All right, so now I'm going to take out the battery connector. You did want to make sure that your phone is off. Hopefully you already did that before opening it. Sorry, I didn't mention that earlier. But after that, you want to pull up this small connector, the one that's in between. Let me see if I can zoom in and show this. Okay, so this one up here. So I just pop it up with my fingernail. You can use like a small plastic pry tool, but I use my fingernails, okay? So if you don't have plastic pry tools, but you have the screwdrivers, just let your nails grow out and then you can do this. All right, after I disconnect the battery, I always hold the power button for about 10-15 seconds just to drain any power and to make sure that I disconnected the right one, that it's not going to turn on. Okay, as you can see, it's not turning on. It was working perfectly fine before, minus the cracks down here. Okay. All right, so once you got that, you want to also take out the screws up here holding the camera and the earpiece speaker sensors and everything up here. So for that, you need to switch to the tri-wing screwdriver. Okay, so this is the tri-wing screwdriver. And there are 3 screws here. Hopefully I can show this. So there's one here. Actually, sorry, I'm thinking of a different model. So you don't have to remove this one. You have to only remove 2 tri-wing screwdrivers. So I was thinking of the other models. Okay, so there's 2 screws. Hopefully you can see. There's one down here. Okay. All right, so we'll take out that one screw. And then there's another screw here. So you kind of have to get between the cable and then, oh, my cat wants to jump on my lap, but I can't do that. Okay, so remove both those screws. Okay, I'll set that aside. And then we have to take that metal plate out of the way. Okay, remove that metal plate. Then you can pop up this connector. So this one's a little tricky because there's not much room in there. So you have to pop this up with a pry tool or a little needle or plastic pokey stick. Be careful if you're using metal tools because you can easily damage or short something in here. Okay, so I'm going to use my fingernail and try and pop this up. All right, just like that. And then you want to remove the 2 connectors down here that are holding the screen in place, okay? All right, so just pop that up, just like that. All right, and just like that. Okay, so now we got the thing out. You want to be careful because there are things on this board. I don't know if you can see. There's foam around it, but sometimes there's other stuff around the board that you can damage if you're not careful, okay? So just be careful. Here you can see the other connector. Okay, so now usually what I do is I peel off all the adhesive. Okay, so let me zoom out. All right. So if you're not replacing the adhesive, then this step is not really needed unless there's like parts of the adhesive where it's kind of forming a big bump, because you don't want the screen resting on top of a lump or you can accidentally crack it easier from that. Okay, so this adhesive, if you stretch it, it peels off, but sometimes it just tears and then you have to kind of roll it around on the thing to get it out. Okay, so there we go. Got that side of the adhesive out. There's also the adhesive on the bottom and the top, but that already came out. Okay. If you're wondering how to remove the battery, I don't know if I did a video of that before, but these have like little pull strip adhesives as well. You do have to take out the Taptic engine. There's some 3 screws, I think, holding it, actually 4. And if you don't take that out, then when you pull it, you can't pull it straight back enough. It'll be kind of pulling up, and this adhesive will end up tearing. So you do want to take out the Taptic engine to make it easier. No, get down. Okay. All right, so we're just peeling out all the adhesive. Okay, just like that. Hold on. Okay, so hopefully we got all of that out. Again, even if you replace the adhesive, your phone isn't going to be waterproof again, so keep that in mind. There's not really much of a point in peeling off the adhesive. It does make it a tiny bit better at keeping dust from going inside, but usually dust won't really affect the inside of the phone, so there's not really much point putting the adhesive back, other than when people open it, they'll see that there's an adhesive there. So, okay, sorry, I'm peeling off the residue from the top of the phone. Let me get the residue from the bottom out. Okay, Alright, so we got that. So now we're going to have to remove all the pieces from the screen. Okay, so these are all tri-wing. There's one cross screw down here, and then the ones up here are all cross screws. The side screws are all tri-wing, and the ones holding the fingerprint sensor are all tri-wing. So make sure you have the right screwdriver that you're using. Okay, so when removing this, the first thing you want to do is take the screw out from the home button. Alright, and also push your finger on the back of the home button, because you don't want to push the home button through the screen. You can damage the cable that way. Am I using the right one? Yeah, okay. Okay, so make sure you're using the right screwdriver. Alright, and then take that screw out. Again, you want to push on the back of the home button because you don't want it to move around. Okay. There you go. So now we're going to take out the other screws. Oh, sorry. I need to do a close-up of this, huh? Okay, hopefully my phone won't overheat while recording this. But anyways, take out the other tri-wing screws. Okay. Again, keep all these screws in order because they are different sizes, shapes, and lengths. So you don't want to get them mixed up, or you can cause damage when you put them back. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm just taking out all these screws, okay? All right, and then set the metal plate aside. Okay, so now this part is a tiny bit tricky, and you're gonna have to use a little heat as well. But to remove this connector, let's see if I can show this on camera, but if you try and pull this up, it's attached to the home button connector, or that goes into the screen here. So what I do is I hold the bottom half down with my thumbnail, okay, and then I pull up with my index finger. So it's kind of a little tricky, but that's how you separate the two layers. So here you can see the top layer came separate from the bottom one, okay? And then again, to remove this, you want to use like a needle and some heat. If you don't have like a thing to heat it, you can probably even just leave it under the sun like this, and the black color will absorb enough heat that you can peel it out. If you have the white model, it's probably not going to work as well. But anyways, I'm going to remove the rest of the screws from the screen from the side, okay? So there's 2 screws on this side, and then where the cable is, and then there's 3 screws on the other side. Make sure, oops, is it not coming out? This screw doesn't want to come out. Okay, there we go. Okay. The replacement I got, sometimes the replacement will come with this back panel, but usually it doesn't, so I'm going to remove it just so that more people will know what to do. Okay. Alright, again, I'll show the screw layout that's on my desk after I finish this, after I remove all these pieces, so you can kind of see how I do it to keep track of everything. Hopefully I'm getting everything in camera. Alright, so we got all of those. It's kind of a hot day today. I think it's like over 80 degrees in the house right now because we don't have AC. Alright, so after you do that, you want to remove the screw down here. This is the one cross screw, so I switched to the other screwdriver bit. Okay, I'm going to put that next to the fingerprint sensor bar cover thing. Alright, then we got this. Oops, let me zoom in again. So now we got the sensors and the cameras up here. We're going to just remove all those screws as well. This repair is a bit tricky, so keep that in mind. You have to be very careful when you do this. Okay. All right. One more screw. Okay, once you get all those screws out, you can lift this cover off, but be careful, sometimes the camera will get stuck in there. Okay, so lift this out. Okay, the camera actually didn't get stuck in there, so we're just going to set that aside now. And if you're wondering, this metal plate is underneath. There's a little metal piece here that the screw goes through. Make sure that you put the metal plate before you put back all the camera sensors and everything. Okay, and then down here there's this lump here with an adhesive that's holding it in place. This holds it so that it ends up in this little gap here. If you don't put this back in properly, then this lump might end up sitting somewhere up here or up here, and it'll be too thick and it'll push on the back of the screen. So if you're wondering, if you're pushing on the screen to try and snap it in and it's not going down, just keep that in mind. That little lump might not be in the right spot. Okay, so again, we have to remove this adhesive here. Okay, let me see. It's hard for me to see what I'm doing and also record it, but lift that up. Okay, this part usually it might tear, so just be careful, but it's very common for this plastic piece that holds it in place to tear. It's just a sticker that kind of guides it, so if it tears, it's not that big of a deal. But there you go. Okay, so we got this out. Now you can take the metal plate out. Okay, here you go. And then just guide the wires out. So when you put the new one, you have to guide the wires through this hole. Okay, so I'm going to set the metal plate aside. All right, so now the tricky parts with the adhesive here. Okay, so these are the tricky parts. What you got to do is first move the camera out of the way. You can't take it out, you have to just lift it slightly. Okay, be careful not to touch the lens. Okay, so lift that out, and then under here is the little earpiece speaker, so you can take this piece out and set it aside. Okay, so the tricky part here is we're going to have to use heat. In here, this sensor, it seats inside a little slot that's pretty tight, and they also use an adhesive, so it's going to be stuck in there. So we're going to have to use heat. I have a little portable air heater thing that I just leave it on. So I just put the screen against that and let it heat up for a while. Okay, so right now I'm just heating up the screen. I don't know, let me see if I can show this. I don't know how I'll show this, but I'm just leaning it on the heater. You can use like a hair dryer or something, and then once the glass becomes hot, like hot to the touch where it can burn you if you leave your hand on it, then you know that it's warm enough to begin trying to peel it off. So you can try, and then if you can't peel it off, you can just heat it up a little more. You don't have to do it right away. So just do it like this. Okay. It's pretty warm. Alright, I'm gonna move this out of the way. I don't want to leave that on there because it's gonna get too hot. Okay, so I think that's good enough. Okay, so once you do that, I don't know if I'll be able to show this clear enough, but I like to peel up these little gold dots first. But basically I just get the needle underneath there and then I lift it, so hopefully you can actually see that it's peeling up, and then I slide the thing. This needle that I have, let's see if I can show it, I actually put a bend in it, so when I slide it, instead of sliding it to the pokey side, I slide it where it's curved like that. That way there's less chance that I can damage the internal components. Okay, so here you can see the adhesive came up pretty easily. Okay, and then let's see. So the sensors are the difficult part. I know it's not that clear. Uh-oh, my phone overheated.